we are again at the British Motor Show, and I'm here with Jazz today, a good friend and a very generous man that has allowed us to display his very special 765 LT McLaren MSO1. If you go on social media, just do a hashtag for MSO1, this car will come up everywhere. It's very famous, it's very special. We've got a display of McLarens here today, or for the whole weekend, the premiergt front display at the entrance of the British Motor Show. So if you're coming down, come and have a look at these special cars here. But today we're going to talk about MSO1. So Jazz, thanks for coming down. Thanks for lending us your car for the whole period of the show to put on display to the public. Tell us a little bit about MSO1.
Sure. Well, MSO1 is chassis number one of the 765 LT Spiders. So there are 765 cars made in total globally, of which 55 have come to the UK, the home market, of which around 20 will get exported to right-hand drive markets. So there'll be about 35 left. This is car number one, and MSO built this car, so it was built at McLaren Production Centre, as they all are. Then it was dismantled at McLaren Special Operations, which is MSO, and they rebuilt it to my specification. So this car has got, it's virtually all carbon, but it's painted. So 80-90% of it has been painted because I didn't want a garage queen. I wanted to drive and use it, to track it, to do miles on it. And in the first 6 weeks, I did 3,000 miles on this car of having it. Day one, I was in it for 14 hours, took it to Cheddar Gorge. So I've driven it a lot. It's been to Scotland, it's been west to Cheddar Gorge, south to Dungeness, nuclear power station. I just love the way it drives. That's what I wanted it for. So in terms of specification, it's only got two options that add weight. One of them is air conditioning, and the other is the audio system. So the aircon adds about 10 kilograms, just under 10, and the audio system adds 1.5 kilograms. Everything else is as light as humanly possible, with a lot of lightweighting, a lot of carbon. It's got full Senna brakes, so those are the discs that take 7 months to cure. Under the bonnet, we'll have a look later, it's got signatures from Amanda McLaren, Bruno Senna, Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris. In terms of the specification of the car, as I said, everything possible is lightweight, so you've got Senna seats. In fact, the passenger seat saves a further, I think it was 7.5 kilograms by not having an adjustment rail, so it's bolted directly to the floor. So every gram that could have been taken out is taken out with this car.
So a very special individual 765 LT, this one, Jazz. But the 765 LT itself, very track-focused, aerodynamically driven car. So if we can go through some of the features, you can take us through here. There's lots of exposed carbon, and a lot of that carbon is a lot of the aero that the 765 LT comes with. I know it's a predominantly carbon car and you've had a lot of it painted, but we can see the aerodynamics here. So if you can just talk us through how some of this works. You say you track the car, you've bought it to drive it, so talk us through some of the aerodynamics of the car.
Sure. Well, the 765 LT increases downforce over the already significant downforce 720S by 25%. And it achieves that through differential. Now, if you look at the front of the car, the nose of the car is sloped further down. It's also narrower at the nose. The front splitter is evidently different to 720S and much more aggressive. It's also a much longer nose and front splitter. Then, of course, it takes air underneath the car, maintaining a clean airflow, and extracts that through the diffuser at the rear, which is oversized again. Now, at the front of the car, as with 720S, you've got air intakes around the headlights, which take air into the low-temperature cooling radiators. So it's a very efficient design, and it vents out the side and through there. Now, at the wheels, you will notice there are vents, carbon vents above the wheel, and that's a reasonably common feature on high-end cars these days, where you reduce the air pressure in the wheel well, thereby reducing lift. So it releases air from there.
So Jazz, you've talked us through the aerodynamics of the car, where it's pushing the car to the ground, the technical details of the vents above the wheel arches where it releases pressure from the wheel arches to stop lift of the car. But the car, this is all through all the design, the scoops that we can see, the beautiful design of this car. But the car also has active aero, doesn't it, that moves as you're driving the car. So talk us through some of the active aero.
Sure, David. So the air moves to the rear of the car, and as you can see, you've got these glass flying buttresses, and they take the air over the rear engine vent, so it helps extract the heat, and it also directs the air cleanly over the huge rear wing. That rear wing is 50% larger than the 720S and is also aggressively shaped. It also acts as an air brake. So what happens is as you drive, particularly when it's an air brake, you see nothing out the rear view mirror at all. But in fact, even with the top down, because the aero is different with the hood up and down, you really can't see out of the back of the car through the rear view mirror. It is extremely aggressive, but it's also an incredible feeling driving it because of that. And when you hit the brakes at speed and the air brake comes up, the stopping power is frankly phenomenal.
Amazing. So we've gone through the aero of the car now. Now talk us through the performance of the car. You've done a lot of miles in this car now. I assume you've driven it in all the different modes. There's lots of driving modes for being on the road in comfort, a bit sporty, being on the track. So if you can talk us through now what the experience is like driving this car. You've been on track in it, you've done some road trips in it. I think you've done a few thousand miles in it already now. So talk us through the experience you've been having since you've picked the car up because you picked it up from McLaren headquarters, I believe, and you've done a few thousand miles. So talk us through the performance of this car, its handling capabilities in these different modes that it comes with.
Sure, I've driven a lot of cars, and when I drove the 765LT Coupe initially, I was blown away by how alive the car felt and how it connected with user driver. The Spider maintains that whilst adding more drama because of the roof coming down and sound. So you get a lot of gunshot sounds from the exhaust. We've got full titanium exhaust, but the real key selling point of these cars is the feeling when you drive it. So obviously you've got a lot of acceleration and power because you've got 765 PS, although people independently on rolling roads have found these to be in excess of 800 horsepower. But what you've also got is 15% shorter gearing on the 765, which again adds to the acceleration. You've got a revised mapping for the gearing as well. But the other big thing about this car is the steering feel. It feels telepathic in how it connects to you. And you feel every bit of the road. You can feel how much grip you've got, how it's behaving through a corner, have you got more, have you got less, you need to loosen or tighten on that wheel. The brakes themselves are absolutely incredible. I mean, some of the best steering and brakes I've ever experienced in any car, including full-on track cars. So it's really all about how it drives. That's the key feature with this car. And I've driven two factory 765s on track at Silverstone. I've driven them on road in winter, again factory cars. This one I've only had 3 months, but I've driven it in every condition you can imagine apart from snow. And it's never failed to impress. The only downside I found is on day one I got caught in torrential rain the day I picked it up, and I've got Trofeo R tyres. I couldn't get them up to temperature. I was aquaplaning everywhere. I felt fortunate when I got home at 10 to midnight. I'd been out 14 hours in this car. Got home 10 to midnight in one piece, and I thought, thank God for that.
Amazing. So one of my favourite features on the 765 LT Jazz is the rear. I just love the back end of this car with them 4 exhausts shooting flames at the back up into the air. Talk us through some of the back of the car.
Sure, as you can see, the back of the car is very, very full of negative space, as it were. There are a lot of holes everywhere at the rear. You can see the gearbox, you can see the engine through the bottom of the car. There's a huge oversized diffuser as well, of course. And then you've got these 4, as someone described to me, mortar launchers. They asked me what the range was. But frankly, they are phenomenal in terms of sound. You get a lot of gunshot sounds when you're driving it hard. And as you can see, what happened after Brands Hatch is that titanium all oxidized and discolored. So you've got a range of colors there, from purples to blues to a golden color inside. So it's just finished the car, I feel. It needed to be driven on track. It's one of those machines. But yes, I love the rear as well.
So, Jazz, thanks for taking us around the outside of the car and talking us through the driving capabilities of this vehicle. Now, we're going to take a look inside the cockpit because we need to take a look at these magnificent centre seats that you've got here. So, we've got the wonderful, beautiful scissor doors, but these seats, I mean, they are just magnificent. So, talk me through how you spec'd and designed the cockpit of the 765 LT.
Sure, thank you. The interior was actually one of the simpler parts of the design of this car. So it's got full Senna seats, which are carbon fiber seats, the lightest seats you can have. My wife actually surprisingly says that these seats are more comfortable than those in our 720S. Now, I wouldn't quite agree with that, but it does show that they're not uncomfortable. So the car interior has got a lot of carbon, as you can see everywhere, and it's as light as I could make it in terms of options, but there's less you can do with the interior. So basically you've got a burnt orange Alcantara interior with carbon fiber anywhere and everywhere you could have it to minimize weight. As you can see with the steering wheel on all McLarens, it is very driver-centric, very focused. Paddles move with you as you turn the wheel. There's no extra buttons on it, just a horn. And it's focused on driving.
Amazing, and it really is. I think everyone would agree who watches this video. Them seats are a work of art on their own. You could take them out and put them in your house, couldn't you?
Absolutely.
What we're going to do now is move on to a feature that I think makes MSO1 really special and unique, and that's the special signatures you got under the bonnet, Jazz. So let's have a walk to the front now. Let's get the bonnet open.
Sure.
And talk us through these signatures. So we've got 4 signatures under this amazing carbon fibre bonnet. I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Zach. You get to see the detail of the carbon weave there. I mean, it's a work of art in itself, but there's 4 very special signatures under there. So tell us who they are.
Sure. The signatures on this car are Bruno Senna, the nephew of Ayrton Senna and a Formula 1 driver in his own right at the top. Then you've got Daniel Ricciardo on the left-hand side. And to the right of Daniel, you've got Lando Norris, his signature. And below them, there is Amanda McLaren, of course, the daughter and only child of Bruce McLaren, founder of McLaren Cars.
So there we have it. There is the very special McLaren 765 LT MSO1. And I remember, Jazz, when you first brought this to us at premiergt to the showroom for a pizza and Peroni night, I think it was, wasn't it? We were having about a month or so ago, yeah. And I remember you driving up the drive in this, and I'd been looking forward to seeing it in the flesh all day. I've obviously seen it on social media, and it blew me away. It's just, the car is breathtaking, and it's very hard for people to see on social media or on TV and in magazine pictures the actual detail that goes into this car, the work of art when you walk around it and you sit up close, and the attention to detail that you've personally put into it to be able to make it so special alongside other 765 LTs, which are all special, but this one in itself it's probably my favourite car. It's certainly my favourite car at the show. It's probably my favourite car that I've seen to date.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Jez. Thank you.